Assalamualaikum. My name is Widi Mutakin from Expose Academy. A few days ago, I got a question from one of my students at Udemy. He modeled something like this, and he wants to continue to create something like this. Essentially, he needs a way to scale objects elements inside the edit mode to an exact size. Because it's kind of hard to explain this in a short text format, I decided to create a tutorial video and an in-depth written article for this. Okay, so there are several ways to achieve what he asked. At least I can think of 4 ways of how we can do this. So the first method is to redo and use bevel and extrude along normal instead. The second method is using face copy and then use the bridge command. The third method, which is the main topic of our tutorial, is using scale and vertex snapping at the same time. And finally, the last method is by using objects dimension input. This final method is needed in the scenario where you need to scale sub-objects to a certain size value without the need to snap to other reference object. Let's discuss each of these methods one by one. The first method is using bevel and extrude normal. If you do 3D modeling, it is a good habit to think carefully about the steps you want to take ahead of time. In this example, if you need to extrude this face and then scale it back to the size of this large cylinder, then you might want to do this from different approach. What I will do is to undo the steps a couple of times until you have the main cylinder. But if you already lose the undo history, you can just select the center face in here. Press Ctrl plus symbol several times. Then press X and then choose Dissolve Faces. Okay. Now instead of doing inset and then extrude, we want to drag this face up like this. Then we need to create an edge loop in the area where the surface get choked. So press Ctrl R. Click on one of these edges, position it to where we want it. Then left click to confirm. Next, while these edges are still selected, press Ctrl B to bevel it. Drag the mouse further until you like the width of it. Then click to confirm. Another way to do this is just to do extrude a couple of times. But I will assume you already know how to do this, okay? Next, we need to extrude these faces. But we cannot simply use the E shortcut for this purpose, because the E shortcut is for the ordinary face extrude command. To access different methods of extrusions, we can press Alt E instead. You can see several types of extrude in here. What we want to access is this one, extrude faces along normals. As you can see, each face will move on its own way or on its own normal direction to be exact, but geometry-wise, they still group together. Okay, so this is one way to solve the problem. The second method is by using copy and bridge commands. So from this point, instead of extruding and trying to scale to the large cylinder, we can first select the faces around the large cylinder's side. We can go to face mode, which is number 3 shortcut if you are using Blender 2.8 or above. It is the number 3 on top of the letter W and E, not the number 3 key on the numpad, okay? Then hold Alt, then click on this edge. Not this edge, but this edge or any of these edges that goes that way. After we have these faces selected, we need to copy them. In Blender, to copy object or sub-objects, we can press Shift D. Right away, we will be in move mode automatically. Press Z to constrain the movement to Z-axis and just move this up a bit. Next, we want to move this part so that the vertices in here aligned with the vertices in here. To do so, make sure the snap mode is set to vertex and the target is set to closest. This means that Blender will perform snapping by finding the closest vertices from the current selection to the target location. Now we don't actually need to turn on the snap mode using this button in here, because we are going to use the control shortcut instead to temporarily turn on the snapping mode. Okay, so press G to move, then press Z to constrain to Z-axis. And while doing that, we can hold Ctrl to activate the snapping mode. Then move our mouse to any of the vertices in here. As we can see, it will snap so that these vertices aligned to these vertices along the z-axis. Go to wireframe mode by pressing Z and then choose wireframe in here. Select this middle face, delete it by pressing X and then choose faces. Press Z again and choose solid to go back to the solid view mode. Next, we want to bridge this edge loop around the small cylinder to this edge loop around the large cylinder. First, go to edge mode by pressing 2. Next, we need to select both of these edge loops. To do that, hold Alt and click on this edge. Then hold Shift and Alt and then click on this one. Right-click and then choose Bridge Edge Loops. So there you go, the second method of how we can achieve this form. The third method is scaling and snapping at the same time. This method is what you probably want to learn because I use this method as the title for this tutorial video. Basically, after we have something like this, we want to extrude and scale the face so it is at the exact size of this large one. To do this, first make sure you have the snapping option set to vertex. Then for the target option, it is set to closest. Also, you need to make sure the project onto self option is on. And finally, this is the most important one. You need to have the scale checkbox at the effect option turned on. Otherwise, the snap mode will never be activated when we do scaling. After we have the snap settings set up correctly, next, we need to select the face. Press E to extrude, but then right-click after that to zero out the extrusion height. Currently, we have double faces in here. Next, press S to scale. Now, this is important. To make vertex snapping works, you need to constrain the scale to certain axis or to certain axis plane. This makes sense because without any axis constraint, there is no way Blender can tell in which direction we want to align. Now I'm going to give you a false example. If we just press S, then while scaling like this, we hold the Control key to turn on the snapping mode. Notice it will snap, but only based on the mouse location and not really aligned to the z-axis. So the correct way to do this is to press S for scaling and then press the axis constraint. Because we want to constrain on the XY plane, or in other words, on the Z plane, we need to press Shift Z. Now, when we hold Ctrl to turn on the snapping mode and move the mouse cursor to this vertex, as we can see, it will snap correctly. This vertex aligned to this vertex based on the z-axis direction. Next, we can just press E to extrude and just continue modeling from here. So again, to recap, to be able to scale and do vertex snapping at the same time, you need to make sure the following. First, make sure you have the scale option turned on in the snapping effect option. Then you need to constrain the axis when scaling. This is important because without it, Blender will have no idea in which direction the snapping should be aligned to. So that is how you scale and snap at the same time in Blender. The last method that we are going to discuss in this tutorial video is using object's dimension input. This method can be very handy if you know exactly the size you want to target. So in this scenario, you can have any size or even shape in this area. It doesn't really matter, as we are not going to use this shape as the reference. For example, you know exactly that you want to extrude and resize this face to 2 meter by 2 meter size. Now, if this face is an object, that will be easy because in object level mode, we can access the dimension input field in the item tab at the sidebar panel. But you cannot access this dimension input field when you are in the edit mode. The workaround for this is to separate the face or the vertices first so they become a new independent object. Then change the dimension and then later combine them again with the original object. So let's do that now. First, select the face, then press P, and then choose Selection to separate it into a new independent object. Go to Object Mode. Make sure the new object, which only consists of this round face, is selected. Open the sidebar panel by pressing N. Then in the Item tab, at the Dimension section, change the x value to 2 meter and the y value to 2 meter also. Next, to combine this object back to the original object, hold Shift and then click on the original object. Remember, you need to select the original object, the last, so that it becomes the active object. We can see the color is brighter than this one. Next, to join both objects, or rather to make this object becomes part of this active object, we need to press Ctrl J. Now, we are back to only have one object, just like before. This way, we can access the round face and the other sub-objects in the edit mode. Next, we can select the face, do extrude as needed. Delete this bottom face. Then we can do bridge command at these two edge loops just like before. So select both of these edge loops, right-click and choose bridge edge loops. So there you have it, the last method, which is using the object's dimension input in the object mode. Okay guys, if you want to learn more about Blender, then you should join my Udemy course, Blender 3D from Zero to Hero. This course will guide you from the very basic step by step until you can master Blender. You can start with this course even if you don't have any experience at all in 3D graphics. I have the link with discounted coupon code in the video description below. And as always, subscribe to my channel, share the video, give a thumbs up if you like the video, and give a thumbs down if you hate the video. Check out my other tutorials. Wassalamualaikum.